Hey guys, I've got a new phone in for you today, the Moto Edge Plus 2022. This was last year's flagship from Motorola, and I think it's still a fantastic buy. When it first came out as $1,000, right now you can get it for $599 new from Motorola, or if you're on Boost Mobile, you can get it for about $220 after taxes. So that's what I did. I don't have Boost Mobile, but I really wanted to check out the phone, so I bought it, and I'm hoping I can resell it to recoup what I spent. Anyways, let's get into it. So I've got the box right here, and inside the phone you get all your normal manuals and trash essentially, and then you also have a USB-C to USB-C cable and a 30-watt included charger, which is awesome to have. Other than that, there's nothing in the box, so nothing too crazy, but you know, at least you get a charging brick, which is nice. Alright, let's move on to the internals of the phone. The one that I got has 512 gigabytes of storage and then 8 gigabytes of RAM, and it's running last year's Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, which is last year's flagship chip. Alright, let's talk a little bit about the physical design of this phone. Starting from the top, we have a 6.7-inch screen and a little hybrid speaker right here where you can either blast it if you're watching a video or just, you know, have it a little quieter when you're on the phone. There's also volume buttons at the top of the phone and a fingerprint sensor and power button right here. There are 3 cameras, a main camera, ultra wide, and then a useless macro, which so many phones have these days. And then on the bottom we have the SIM tray with no expandable memory, a USB-C port, a microphone, and then the secondary loudspeaker. Overall, it's a pretty well designed phone. For a flagship, I think it's kind of lame that it doesn't have the inbuilt fingerprint scanner inside of the screen, and it's at the top, which that's another complaint of mine. The buttons at the top here are really high. So this is the power button, and then these are the volume buttons. I'll get some B-roll so it looks a little better and you can see it. But overall, I think the design is pretty nice. It feels relatively light, especially given its size, and I really like the iridescent back, and it feels great in my hand, and it sticks as well. It doesn't slide like some other materials do. So I think for $1,000, I wouldn't really love it, but for the price that I got it, I would really love it. Right, so we're going to talk a little bit about the screen, which honestly is my favorite feature of this phone. Well, maybe the speakers, but the screen is fantastic. It's a HDR10 Plus certified 144 Hz OLED panel, which means very flagship. The blacks are obviously super black, the contrast is high, and the colors are very punchy. So whatever you're watching, it's gonna look great. Now on to one of my favorite parts of this phone, the dual speaker setup. They get decently loud and they sound pretty full. I'll just play a sample here for you guys so you can make your own decision. In this unit, there's a 4,800 milliamp hour battery, and it has pretty decent screen on time. If you lock the phone into the 60 Hz mode, I'm able to get around 11.5 hours. Though if you put it onto 144 Hz, the battery life gets significantly worse. As a point of reference, my Pixel 7, which is currently my daily driver, gets around 9 hours and 30 minutes of screen on time. So this thing can be an absolute champ if you lower the refresh rate, and it can easily last you a whole day, because 11 hours of screen on time is pretty insane. You'd even be able to get through most international flights and then, you know, just top up a little bit. But yeah, that's how long it lasts. Now, in terms of how quickly it can recharge, this isn't anything to write home about. It comes with that 30-watt charger in the box, which is as fast as this unit's actually able to charge. This unit is a copy essentially of the Moto Edge 30, which is the international version of this phone, and that version of this phone can charge at 68 watts. This one cannot, I don't know why, but yeah, that's just the way it is. So you're looking at over an hour to get this charged to 100%. It does support wireless charging though, which to me isn't a big deal, but for a lot of people it is, so it's nice to have that as a feature. But overall, the battery is nothing to write home about unless you are fine with 60 Hertz instead of 144 Hertz, which honestly I am. That's usually the trade-off I make. I usually lower the screen refresh rate because I prefer to get longer battery. On some phones that doesn't help and I leave the refresh rate high, or if it's a variable refresh rate, I just let the phone decide. Let's talk performance. Starting off with the default operating system on this, Motorola has a really light touch when it comes to Android. So if you like Android as it is on a Pixel, you'll probably like it here. You will miss some of those Pixel exclusives like call screening and holds, where the phone will hold for you, which is pretty cool. But you do get cool additions like this chop, which turns on the light, and the camera can open by doing the twist, and there's a couple others, but my favorite is definitely the flashlight chop. So it runs buttery smooth because it's running default Android, and it has the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, which can chew through pretty much any game. So my favorite game to test is Alien Isolation, and after a good chunk of gaming, the phone doesn't even really heat up. So this thing is a champ when it comes to performance. Alright, last part of this review, let's talk about the cameras. On the front, we have a 60 megapixel selfie camera, which in my opinion has way too much of a beautification filter. Kind of softens your skin a little too much. And then we have a 50 megapixel main camera, a 50 megapixel ultra wide camera, and a trash 2 megapixel macro camera. Overall, I think the camera system's actually pretty decent, especially if you're taking photos. When you're taking pictures, it has nice processing and things look crisp, and just overall it's a pretty good camera. But everything falls apart when you go to video, as you'll see when I show the camera samples. So let's just get into those and you can decide for yourself how much you like this camera. You can take macro videos, but they look so bad. Alright, this is just the normal video. Seems pretty decent, but it's kind of over sharpened. Alright, now I just switched it to the ultra wide. Not too bad. Hard worker over here.
That's right, baby. I have a place in my work where I can, that I love doing.
Kona. Kona.
Kona. What? Are you gonna feed me or something? Say my name. Say my name. Say my name.
You're such a good boy. Gross. Gross. Here's a low light video. Totally looks like I'm gonna get murdered or something. So, pros and cons of the Moto Edge Plus 2022. Pretty much everything is a pro except for these weird hide buttons. The cameras are really good for photos, but they kind of fall apart with videos. And then the macro camera is just bad straight up. Other than that, I don't think there's really anything wrong with it. It's going to get Android 14 and a couple years of security updates. So again, for $500, if you're looking at mid-range phones, you know, you've got the Pixels, which if you only care about camera, I would say those are definitely better phones. And if you're a Motorola fanboy, this is going to be the best bang for your buck that you can get, especially if you can get it on a carrier discount. I know the Moto Edge Stylus, or not Edge, sorry, just the Moto Stylus came out recently, and that phone is, I think, $400. So for $100 more, you're getting a significantly better phone, in my opinion. way better chipset, way better screen, better haptics, better camera, pretty much better everything other than it doesn't have a stylus. Though it does support a stylus and you can get a stylus case. But if you like Motorola, I would say this is a really good phone. And especially if you live in the States, this is going to be fantastic. Anyways, that concludes my review for this phone. Pretty good phone. I'd recommend getting it if you see it on a crazy deal.